Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I see you guys were chatting earlier, and I was in a session. I had to see a client last minute, so that stretched my time. So I apologize for starting at 7:25. I do see you guys were looking for me around 6:40. But hopefully you guys can join and we can have a productive conversation. Let me just double check and make sure that Instagram is with us, because you know how they are. Okay. I think we're good. I think we're good. And I see the rest of you signing on, and kind of beginning the conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. Tonight's conversation is an interesting one. I was hoping to catch up because I think it was 2 Fridays ago I wasn't here because my mom was in the hospital. She wasn't doing well, so I didn't do a live chat that night. So what I was going to do is do that live chat tonight, and then I started getting emails from some of you behind the scenes talking about family harassment and stalking behaviors and bullying and harassment, and I thought, well, maybe we need to bring this conversation to a live chat this weekend. Tomorrow's going to be a different topic. We'll get to that at the end. But tonight's topic is very interesting because there's not a lot of research on this. Can you believe that? There's not a lot of clinical and quantitative and easily accessible information on family bullies. And so this conversation tonight is really scratching the surface, but you're going to get a lot more out of tonight's live chat, at least I hope you will, than you would get if you were just doing a Google search. I literally pulled journals that, and we're not talking about the journals that you write, and we're talking about the professional journals where there's research studies being done, there's numbers and statistics, and there's research methods. I did not find enough information to put this live chat together. It was so hard. And when I started kind of, considering information in the realm of domestic violence, and I considered some information in the realm of, family estrangement, then I got a little bit of information about family bullies. But, just to go online and Google, you're not going to find it. You're going to find research and blog posts on bullying, but you're not going to find it family bullying. It's going to be really hard. So it was tough, guys, to kind of, use my professional experience and then find the information. So be ready for some new terms because I'm going to be throwing some new terms out there for you. Let me just say that the term bullying originally came from the root word mobbing. Bullying came from, and it is from, the root word mobbing. And in studies way before 1957, mobbing was the term that was used. Now, you may have heard some people who talk about being stalked, talks about being bullied or harassed by a group of people. You may have heard the term mobbing, and there's some real, is the word girth. There's some real foundation to that because the root word of bullying is mobbing. And the reason for that is bullying rarely happens in an individual context. It tends to happen in a group context. So let me say that again. Bullying rarely happens, and this is backed by research. Bullying rarely happens between one and another person. So two people, sometimes even three people. It rarely happens there. What happens, according to research, is bullying happens within a group. And that group could be 5 people, 17 people, 20 people, right? It could be everybody on your job. It could be half your family. It could be your husband and his, family, his family members, your in-laws, or her family and her in-laws. It's typically occurring in the context of a group. And that's what makes this term bullying also the term mobbing, because you're not going to find bullying, even if you go to school and look at school age children or high schoolers, you're not going to find that child necessarily being bullied just by one kid. What happens is one kid may pick on that other child, the innocent child, and then that bully may start getting other people and rallying them against the child. Typically, according to research on bullying and psychology, there's often a group of people who bully. It's rarely just one individual. So that's one piece of this puzzle. Now, let me define bullying, because bullying is defined differently in various settings. You know, if you look up the term childhood bullying, that comes up differently than workplace bullying. But what I found was one term that I'm okay with. I can settle on this one. And it's bullying is really an aggressive, intentional act. An aggressive, intentional act that has to have two components. And you guys know these terms because I brought them up in the past couple of weeks. Aggressive, intentional acts have to have two conditions. One is a power differential. So there has to be, which we also can call a power indifference or a power imbalance. I'll put it that way. A power imbalance. Somebody is like this in the relationship and somebody's up here in the relationship. There has to be, in order for it to be family bullying, workplace bullying, individual bullying in school, there has to be a power differential. And there also has to be a perceived weakness. And that's usually in the eyes of the bully, the person who's harassing you. So let's say, for example, your dad, and my mother has experienced this in her past before my grandfather passed away. So I may share that with you a little later in the conversation. But let's say, for example, you have a father. He's very narcissistic. He's self-centered. He's rude. He's arrogant. He's disrespectful. And anything you try to achieve in your life, you may find that he doesn't approve of it. Why? Because you're not doing exactly what he wants you to do. You're not going the places he wants you to go. You're not marrying or dating the people he wants you to be with. There's always some kind of criticism. So you may have come out of that situation or lived in that situation feeling harassed and bullied and intimidated. And if you did anything wrong, your father may come back at you with a judgment, a criticism, a harsh word, right? He may also come back at you through retaliation and retribution. I mean, we're going to get into this a little bit further tonight, but these are the things that a family member who is a bully will often do. Sometimes family members who are bullies will also triangulate. They'll pull in different people into a situation in hopes that that person, the bully, can have more people on his or her side than you do. So remember, bullying tends to happen within a group context. So if that family member, who, for example, is your father, if he wants somebody to be on his side, to back up his views, to back up his claims, to back up how he sees you, what's he going to do? Well, here's how he may decide to start bullying you or intimidating you or harassing you within the family context. He may go over here and pull in Uncle BB, who has always been judgmental within the family. He may go over here and pull in your cousin, who has never really been on your side, right? He may go to this location and pull in your mother, because your mother has always been afraid of him and intimidated. And so he knows she's going to go along with everything, right? And then he may reach way down in the family and pull up a great aunt who really doesn't know you that well and may have a lot of criticisms about you just by looking at you. So what is your harassing, bullying, intimidating father doing? Well, he's creating a triangle. And that triangle creates a lot of problems and pain on your part, right? There's definitely a power differential here, because the people he's pulling into the triangle to go against you or intimidate you are individuals that you may not like, you may not know well, they may not know you well, right? You may feel really embarrassed and insecure about the fact that dad's talking to these people in your family that you don't know about you. That creates a power differential. So dad has the power in this scenario. Why? Because he's the one who's comfortable with all these people he's pulling into the triangle. So he's up here at this point and you're down here at this point. Why? Because you feel insecure, blamed, harassed, tired. The list just goes on, right? Another piece of this power differential power differential is maybe dad knows that you're not going to come back at him too harshly because you need his finances to help you pay your mortgage until you get back up on your feet again. You need to have transportation and you really need him to pay your car note until you can take it over again, right? So there has to be some kind of I'm here and you're here. There has to be a power differential. The other piece of bullying that's important to keep in mind is there's a perceived weakness in the eyes of the bully. So let's say in this example, your father, there's already a power differential. He's already causing a triangle. What more does he need to do to make you feel defeated, right? That may be something that you've asked. Well, here's what he can also do. He's definitely going to make his bullying of you excessive. That's another condition. It's going to be, and it has to be, excessive. Bullying is aggressive, intentional behavior that's excessive. So you may find that your dad is constantly going over and over the things that you've asked him many times to stop, right? And you may also find that he doesn't hear you when you explain yourself to him. So he becomes even more critical, demeaning, angry, rude, disrespectful to you. And so every encounter with your dad becomes an excessive and repeated experience of bullying, right? And harassment and intimidation. But he also has to have, through his glasses, whatever lens he's looking through to understand you, so he thinks, right? That's an example of kind of the dynamics in the situation. Usually, let me say this briefly, usually if there's family bullying, the family member already sees you through a particular lens. So a therapist is not going to be able to wipe that lens away, right? A friend, a family member may not be able to get rid of that lens that bully sees you through. It really is a firm perception of reality that is incorrect, most likely. But usually bullies have this incorrect lens that they see you through, and they perceive that you are weak and vulnerable. And so this is what creates often the family bullying dynamic. It's aggressive, intentional acts that are repeated, they're excessive, you're exposed to it often. There's a perceived weakness, and there's a power differential. And once you meet all of those conditions within the family dynamic, then you can conclude, oh, I am being bullied in my family. I'm being pushed up against the wall and told not to say anything or else. And so this has far exceeded harassment. Harassment is intentional as well, and it's repeated. But family bullying can happen for many, many years. And it can also be built into the family dynamic, to the tapestry of the family, to the quilt of the family. Bullying can become a very deep rooted challenge, and it's not always easy to work your way out of. So we're going to talk about that. Let me also mention too, that in these households, let's say you've grown up in a family where there's family bullying, you may find that there is often at the hands of the bully a desire for social and familial hierarchy. Social hierarchy is, I've done everything I need to do to get to this place socially. And so if I have to bully my sister, bully my brother, or if I have to bully my parents, or if my parents have to bully me to get into a position in a social realm, I will do it. So that father example I just gave you, what he might do is start intimidating you, talking about the fact that you can't work, maybe pushing you around, demanding you pay rent or mortgage, or really putting your finances in a strain, right? Maybe he's now demanding mortgage that he never demanded in the past. Whatever the case, he is looking for a higher social and familial hierarchy to get on. And that's a way to do it. I can climb to the top as long as I keep my son beneath my foot. I can climb to the top as long as I keep my daughter under my foot. And how am I going to do that? Well, she hasn't paid rent and mortgage to me for years, and now I'm going to expect her to pay $1,980 to live in our basement. Or I'm now going to require that she get her own car insurance and she come off of my car insurance, because now I'm done. I'm done helping, and she has to find her way. And believe it or not, I had a case like that on Monday. And it was so depressing because the child is really trying to become independent, but the narcissistic parent, really wants to climb up on that family level, that family hierarchy where he's on the top and she's on the bottom. And that's a really sad place. We call those power hierarchies. Okay. Let me also say in here that, if there's bullying within the family dynamic, you're likely going to see what we call interpersonal aggression. Interpersonal aggression, really it's relational aggression, and that can be threats, it could be digs, it could be passive aggressive behavior, it could be sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional incest. It could be all of those gooky things and things that just doesn't feel good, right? And you walk away from that family encounter feeling like you've just walked in a whole area of mud, right? Because of the way that you get treated and talked to and, just kind of perceived, right? There often tends to be, before I go to the chat box, because I do see you guys chatting it up, so you must be relating to this. But there's also no protection whatsoever, externally or internally. And here's what I mean by that. There's no protection from people on the outside of this kind of a family dynamic, because a lot of people do not believe that family bullying is a thing. So if you were being bullied within the family context and you go to somebody maybe that lives, on your street next door to you, somebody that you're close to, a neighbor, if you go to them and say, I'm being bullied within my family, I literally feel like I'm being bullied. It may not fit the label of harassment, but it certainly fits the label of bullying, because I'm being intentionally intimidated. I'm being aggressed. I'm being demeaned. There's a power differential. There's a perceived weakness on my part. There's abuse. There's neglect. There's disrespect. There's inappropriate labeling going on. There's a lot of things that makes me feel unsafe, and it happens excessively and repeatedly. And I don't know what to do about it. That neighbor may actually say, oh no, your dad would never do that. He would never treat you that way. He's always been a wonderful person. He's been in the church. Is he still a bishop? And you just may be standing there looking like, okay, why are we going down this road, right? And you may try to clarify. And this has happened to one of my clients in the past, which is why I'm bringing this up. And, you may say, well, no, he doesn't just get angry and, and he's that kind of a person. And he's a bully behind closed doors. And that may be really hard for people on the outside to see, especially if there's a socially acceptable title or label that's attached to your father, right? Therapist, preacher, bishop, spiritual leader, nurse, doctor, surgeon, lawyer, right? You can label them that way. And once those labels get on there, people on the outside may not believe you. So there's no external protection. There may also be no internal protection as well, meaning that you within your family context may not have the opportunity or the ability to open up to other people in your family and say, look, this is what's going on. Here's the dynamic. You may get exactly what that external person gave you. Oh, no, I don't think he would ever do anything like that. So there's often no external or internal protection. And sadly, that helps to create the power differential, because that dad of yours, who may be labeled with any one of those labels I just gave, pastor, lawyer, doctor, therapist, whatever, it kind of cloaks them, right? And so they hide. It's like, what do we say? Wolves in sheep's clothing, right? It's not what you think it is. Once you pull the cloth off, you may be able to say, see that this is something that is dark and evil, but it's really hard to identify these kind of individuals within a family context. Let me give you a brief overview before I go to the chat box, because I definitely have a lot to get to in the chat box, my Lord. Let me give you a brief overview. So I want to give you some common issues that happens in these kind of families so that you can kind of take a step back and say, wait a minute, is this me? Right? I want to give you a little bit of research just to kind of back up some of the things I'm mentioning in this live chat tonight. And then I'm going to give you some insights on how this impacts you, because it has a powerful punch, and especially when you realize, okay, I'm being bullied. I'm not just being talked down to. I'm not just being disregarded. I'm being harassed. I'm being bullied. This far exceeds what's okay, So I want to give you some insight on how this kind of dynamic can impact you. Okay, let me go to the chat box. See what you guys are saying. Kim, yeah, you're welcome. Oh, I hope you have too. Welcome. Glad to see you tonight. Michelle Lynn, always glad to see you as well. Doing well. She is. She's getting better. So I really appreciate you for that. It's getting her mobile again. The walking again piece is going to be the hardest piece for her, I think. But we are getting there. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you. Axe the Edge. I hope I said that correctly. Good to see you. I hope you were able to sign back in because I started at 7:25. Sammy D, hello and welcome. Judges Bailiff, haven't seen you in a while, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome. Starburst, Sylvia Love Jones, Fairy Girl, Nancy, Rochella, James McDonald, K-Razy, and Sun and Sunflowers. Hello to all of you. Good to see you tonight. James, let me go back to him. James McDonald says, evening, Tamara, and all looking forward to this one. So good to hear that. Yeah, hopefully this is going to be very helpful. M.N. Odell, welcome to tonight's live chat. Good to see you. I cannot say that. What does that even say? H, Anif, 2. Nah, I messed that up. It feels wrong, Hello and welcome. Correct me if you can. Shay Wallace, hello. Good to see you back. I haven't seen you in a little while. Good to see you. Good to see you. And thank you so much. She's getting better. Thank you. Gary Bennett, hello. Hope all is well for you as well. Good to see you. Flyboy S, good to see you. Welcome back. Flyboy S says, family bullies being favored from a parent are the worst to siblings. Parents don't know what they're doing. I very, very much agree with that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring that up a little later. It's an understudied area of research for most therapists that there's a favorite child, there's a favored child, there's a hero in the family who's the sibling or the child, and it makes life that much worse on other siblings. And I just did a video on siblings a couple days ago, and all those dynamics I mentioned in that video, I'll make sure to link it to this live chat at the end here. But all the characteristics that I talked about in that video on siblings really ties into this chat tonight, because if you have another sibling, if you have a sibling who's bullying and harassing you, it's not going to get through to the parent who, number one, favors that child, number two, may have some kind of bias against you, and number three, bullying is hard to detect, and it may be difficult for you to say, hey mom, hey dad, I'm being bullied by my brother over here, or bullied by my sister, because bullying within a family context isn't a common ideology or an idea or a theory. So parents often have a hard time believing that there's bullying going on between two siblings, and that's sad, but it does happen a lot. We're going to get into this, Flyboy, so hang tight. Silent Walk, hello. I haven't seen you in a long time, it feels like. Hello and welcome back. Good to see you. James McDonald, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Always grateful for the super chats, and thank you for letting me know that. Desert Star, hello and welcome. I like that screen name. Good to see you as well. Desert Star says, thank you for covering this. You're welcome. I had to get a protective order against two siblings. Everything they've done has been so traumatic. Wow. Well, that's a sad thing when you have to get a protective order. Let me just say that most judges don't just hand those out. They don't, because a protective order says that there's some kind of domestic violence, or there's some kind of stalking, or there's some kind of problem, and judges are not going to just hand that out. Now, in some locations where There may not be a lot of business. Some judges will just say, here, take it. Protective order, you want one, here you go. But in most cases, they're not easy to get. So if there's a true protective order that was served, it must have been a pretty serious situation, which is pretty sad. Jeremy Robinson, hello, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Jeremy says, that's strange because I feel like family bullying is worse than a stranger bullying. I agree because you have that excessive, constant bullying within a family versus strangers. So yeah, I see where you're coming from there for sure. Kay Razy, thank you for the super chat, and hello, good to see you. Welcome back. Okay, she's just responding to Jeremy. Jessica J, hello, thank you so much. I hope you're doing well as well. Looks like you've had a stressful day. Join the club. I hope it gets better for you, right? For all of us. This week was rough for me too. I don't know why, but sometimes we have weeks like that, don't we? Where you just get up and you look around your room and you're like, why am I up? Can I just go back to bed? Kiki B, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Kiki says, hi, Tamara. I've been adverse to relationships after dealing with multiple betrayals. I don't blame you. But after listening to how you showed up for your mom during her time of need, it encouraged me to put myself out there so that I can have people like you to rely on in my time of need. Wow. That's so touching. Thank you for that. And that's beautiful. Thank you. That's all I can say to that. But I feel that. So thank you. Let me just put out here that I think that goes for all of us, that if we sometimes, despite all the issues we talk about on this channel, despite the topic of tonight, there's hopefully, and I think I do believe there's always one person, one relationship, one child, one purpose, one meaning, one something that can help you hit the restart button on your ability to trust and love and be available to other people. You know what I mean? And so that's the beauty of life to me, that sometimes there's that one thing that you need that can help you regain some stability and hope, So that was a touching comment. Thank you for that. And I'm so glad you've kind of found a new way to look at things, and I have to do that myself in my own life. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that I don't experience those periods, that you have. So I think that's multiple messages in one, just your comment alone. But I'm glad you were able to feel some hope and hit the reset button. Orlando says, hey, Tamara and chat. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Bree, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome back. Bree says, for me, it was usually 1 to 2 people at a time that would bully me. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Yeah, because sometimes the bully goes off over here and talks about you, and that person also becomes your bully, and then there you go. And then sometimes it's just coincidental that it's happening all at the same time. Jermaine, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Jermaine says, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, says, if you search family scapegoat, you'll probably find more information. Yeah, I mean, I have videos on my channel on family scapegoats. You can also type in my name in the search box to get those videos. Family scapegoat is very much the black sheep of the family. And do family black sheeps and scapegoats and the lost family role child, do they often experience bullying? Yes. And that is what often leads them to say, I'm out of here. I want no more contact with my family. I just can't do this anymore, because they are constantly labeled, and it's excessive, labeled with titles and labels that do not belong to them. It's like, think of the black sheep or the family goat as the individual who is being told what they have to put on and wear every day without having any kind of input. And that's how it feels. It feels bad. It feels like you're telling me what I am, and I'm not that, but you're telling me this is what I am. And you're telling me this is what I am because it's easier for the family. It allows you to escape responsibility and accountability. And it allows you to continue to do what you're doing. Just put all the blame on me. Just label me up, right? And I see that a lot in my practice. It's very, very sad. Sun and Sunflower says, was bullied at home and in school. I had no relief growing up other than spending time with my grandmother. My mom would send my narc sister to go and watch me and tattle on me. It was a horrible childhood. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's not good at all. I have a client who, he's 11, and I'm trying to be careful because I'm very serious about privacy and confidentiality. But this child not only has to deal with severe bullying at school because he's been jumped or beat up before by several kids. So we're talking about a literal mob. And so that same kid who mobbed him or bullied him or jumped him also lives in the neighborhood. So he gets bullied at school by this kid, gets bullied in his neighborhood by this kid, and then get this, goes home and he's bullied by his sibling. And one of the conversations I've had with the family is this, that if you want him to make it psychologically and emotionally, he's going to have to be removed from the toxic environments he's in, because being bullied at home, bullied at school, bullied in the neighborhood, that's 3 of the most important settings: home, school, and the community. And any child that has a burden on their shoulders in all 3 areas, that is not going to turn out right. So Sun and Sunflowers, the fact that you had to deal with that at home and in school, it wouldn't shock me if you said, I now have difficulty with relationships. I now have difficulty with flashbacks. I have some kind of complex PTSD. I'm depressed. I'm anxious, right? Because that's basically the end result if you're getting bullied in more than one area of your life. Okay. Ellie Wynn, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Yvette Terry, excuse me for that. Hello and welcome. Always good to see you in the live chat as well. Jessica J says, bullying also happened in the workplace. People in power over you. I find it difficult to deal with. Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine working in a agency where if you see fraud going on, if you see something inappropriate going on, can you imagine reporting that and then your boss coming at you for reporting it? You know, we have a concept in business, and this is more so in the healthcare realm, and it has a lot to do with fraud, waste, and abuse. And most providers have to take trainings on it. They are terribly boring, but they are very important. Why? Because it talks about privacy and confidentiality and how to dispose of information, right? But it also talks about reporting fraudulent or inappropriate, wasteful, abusive behaviors. And in some environments where you're working, if you go ahead and contact that specific number and email where you can report wrongdoing behavior, your supervisor is going to get that information first, and then it's going to go through the appropriate channels. Can you imagine having a supervisor who holds over your head that if you continue to make accusations and report things, that you're going to be fired? You're going to be, lowered to a lower position in your workplace. Like, this happens. So Jessica J, it's also just as equally traumatizing to have a bully in the workplace. I guess that's what I'm saying. And if it's a bully, if it's a supervisor, let me turn that around. If it's a supervisor, the bullying feels much worse because they're supposed to be the leader, right? Trauma survivor, hello and welcome. Good to see you back. Says, I feel like I've been bullied and stepped on. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the definition of bullying, feeling stepped on, feeling unable to move from one place to the next, for sure. Silent Walk says a coalition. Yep, I agree. A coalition, for those of you who may be new tonight or haven't heard me talk about this in the past, a coalition is a relationship of 2 individuals, and they agree on something, and they kind of build like this pact, right? And that may be what we call a subsystem. Mom and dad, that's a subsystem. Sister and brother, or brother and brother, sister and sister, that's a subsystem. Grandpap and grandma, that's another subsystem. So in those subsystems, sometimes there's a coalition. Mom and dad get just like this against their children, or my brother and my dad are just like this against my mom. And it's hard for us to have an opinion, to grow in a relationship, because mom and dad are like this, or mom and daughter, right? So that's a coalition. It's we've come together on something that we agree with, and now we're going to come against you or disagree with you. So yes, Silent Walk, it is a coalition. SNG1, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. SNG1 says triangulation. Yes. And then they go on to say it's toxic. Yes, it is. Judge's Bailiff says, this is my mom. Yeah. It's sad when it's your mom, right? Kevin Dower, good to see you. Kev Dower, good to see you tonight. Says triangulation is awful. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because somebody's already categorized themselves as the victim, and it most likely is going to be that person that's victimizing you. You know, Nancy R says, my father taught my brother. My brother is really good at bullying. I had to completely walk away. Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to say that, but it's true. And it happens that way. A lot of families, and I tell some of my dads this when they come into treatment with me, you have to monitor your own behavior. Your own behavior is the number one example for a child as to how they're supposed to behave in the world. And if you're yelling and screaming and cursing and threatening and, engaging in intense road rage and bullying people and harassing them and running them down and being intimidating, and that's not the way to be, because that is going to rub off on your child. And as a matter of fact, it's going to rub off on the very person that you want to grow up and be a productive citizen in society, right? And so, Nancy, I know you know this well, that if a dad or a mom models a certain behavior, what do you expect when they get to a certain age and start acting the same way? And I hate to say this, sometimes with families that come and see me, I really do have to research that area. Is this learned behavior? Is this organic behavior where it's coming from inside the child? There's been no influence, or is mom and dad to blame here? And sometimes it's both. Okay, one last comment. I'm going to go back to the content for us. Fruity Pie ASMR. Oh my God, that's cute. Hello and welcome. Good to see you back. They say, my mom uses silent treatment. I only recently stopped enabling it and just went gray rock. Okay, for those of you who know Dr. Ramani, I think most of you do on this channel because you guys follow her and then you follow me. I can see it in my statistics. So my numbers on the channel. So all of you, most of you on this channel probably know the gray rock method. If not, I'll post one of her videos in the description box. But anyway, they go on to say, now she's telling people I'm not talking to her. I'm saving up to move out. But why does this happen? I don't know. And I can't say, I would need background information, dynamics, all of that stuff. But I do get your questioning. The silent treatment is passive aggressive, and it's sending a message that you either don't want to verbalize or you don't want to have to rock the boat by verbalizing something. So what do? You just act it out, because we tend to be very intuitive human beings, some of us more than others. And, when someone's huffing and puffing and blowing or not texting you or emailing you, or they're walking around you not saying hello, or, acting like you don't exist, that's going to go straight to your heart because you sense what's going on. And it's a very controlling, harassing, sometimes kind of a disposition. If you've ever lived in a household with somebody who's very angry and they have a lot of hostility and rage, and passive aggressive behavior is their go-to, you know what I mean. They don't talk, they don't look at you, they walk by you like you don't exist. They treat you really, really bad. It's almost dehumanizing, right? And anytime there's dehumanizing behavior, bullying is often right behind that. Because the less of a human I see you, the easier it is to hurt you. Okay, let's go back to the content. What are the common issues here, right? What has psychology research said about the issues in bullying or families where there's bullying? I'll put it that way. The number one thing, and I see this in my practice as well, is there's dysfunctional family characteristics often at the root or the core of the problem. Family bullying isn't a normal experience. It may sometimes feel normal, because it's something that a family kind of falls into. For those of you who know me well and you've been with me for many years on the channel, you know that I always refer to a family as a busy city. And I tend to refer to it as New York City. I don't like New York City. You know why? Because it's so busy. It's like everybody's walking everywhere. There's so many sounds. I'm like, get me out of here. You know, the buildings are so high. I'm like, I'm trapped. You know, that's how I feel. But New York City is so busy, right? There's a lot of hustle and a bustle, and there's walking and running and people on bikes and people in cars, and there's taxis everywhere and lifts. The list just goes on, right? There's lights everywhere. It's bright as day at night. There's a lot, especially in downtown area. So a family is kind of like that. You know, they're a busy city. Everybody's doing everything. A busy city has normal behaviors and abnormal behaviors, just like a family. And an abnormal behavior within a family is bullying. It feels normal sometimes because it's something that your family has learned to engage in. It's something that keeps that busy city going. Bullying. If dad bullies you and makes you feel afraid, what does that do? Well, it kind of puts you back in your place, right? And you stop talking, or you stop contacting him, or you stop doing something that he wants you to stop doing, right? So the bullying behavior works. And so it continues in these kind of families. And over time, it starts to feel normal, but it's very abnormal. So we consider it dysfunctional family characteristics. The other piece of the puzzle is the quality of the parent-child relationship or the sibling relationship may be very compromised, right? If there's family bullying, the relationship between members is compromised at that point. You don't need to feel harassed. You don't need to feel bullied, and you certainly don't need to feel mobbed, for lack of a clinical term. But once you start feeling that way, what happens? Your defenses go up, your fight or flight mode kicks in, and before you know it, you're feeling like you need to protect yourself. And so the quality of the relationship between you and your family members, your parent, your siblings, it can shift and change over time. There's also, and research really backs this up. I was so glad to see it in the research, that there's also generational bullying. So you know how we have intergenerational trauma? Well, there's also generational bullying that can start way back in your great grandmother's family, right? Or great grandpa's family. Bullying can start there, and it can be learned over time. It can be taught through behaviors and learned over time. And then it continues throughout the lifespan and throughout the years. And it never changes. Family secrecy is also generational. And it can also be a way to bully, right? You know, family secrecy. I remember years ago, I had to be about 7 or 8. And excuse me, my mom was talking to my uncle, and she found some adoption papers, and the adoption papers was of my uncle's brother, so my other uncle. And my mom found this because my great grandmother was suffering dementia. Then she went into Alzheimer's disease, and then she passed away. Within a month or two span of time, my mom was cleaning up the house with my grandmother, my late grandmother, and she found some adoption papers. She looked at the adoption papers and she found my uncle's name. As she was reading through the adoption papers, she learned something, a family secret. And my uncle happened to get really upset when my mom started naming the facts, bringing up dates. He knew then that she knew what she was talking about. But I remember watching him. I had to be about maybe 6, 7, 8, somewhere around in there. I remember watching him snatch the adoption papers out of my mom's hands, and he was so infuriated. He was so angry. Why? Because it was a generational trauma. It was a generational a secret that was never really talked about. And so this is a common thing within families where there's bullying. My uncle, I would consider him a bully, no longer, but in his younger days, 100%. And part of his bullying was to perpetuate lies within the family, perpetuate secrets, right? And keep everybody in the dark. And so if you have that in your family, you can consider that bullying as well. It's bullying and harassment. Here I go asking questions, and instead of giving me the answer, you're going to withhold information, you're going to intimidate me, or you're going to put me in an uncomfortable position where I'm going to feel bad and I'm going to drop it, right? So family secrecy. The other thing is picks, favorites, it can be like this undercurrent. What is the word I'm looking for? This undercurrent bullying or harassment. You're not the favorite, stay over there. But Bobby can come over here because he's the favorite, right? And it may not be verbalized, but you feel that, right? There may also be retribution or retaliation within these families where there's bullying. There may also be this deep desire to establish dominance, and that can happen by the way that you were raised. It can happen by the way that you're being looked at by a family member. It could be the spreading of false information or rumors. It could be like my uncle did to my mom, snatching things out of your hand and saying, don't ask me questions about this. Anything that jeopardizes your freedom and your ability to have a free mind, that can be considered family bullying. The desire for or the establishment of dominance through intimidation is bullying. Now, let me give you, before I go back to the chat box and take a little bit of a break here, let me give you information on some of the research. Bullying within families is underreported. It is also understudied. We have very little research on this. A risk factor for family bullying, and you want to kind of soak this in just a little bit. A risk factor for family bullying is victimization throughout generations. Victimization throughout generations. What does that mean? Great grandpa was victimized by family members. Somehow that passed on to my mother, right? My mother was victimized as well. Somehow that passed on to my great uncle, right? So this is just an example. And it can go throughout generations like that. So having generational victimization or being victimized throughout generations within your family can very, very much be a risk factor for further bullying within a family. It's how you think about dealing with a bully in school for kids, right? Or a bully at the workplace. I just have to report them and it'll stop. Or I just have to stand up for myself and it'll stop. Or you may be thinking or saying to yourself, if I just report this, it'll stop. The reality with family bullying is this, and this is backed by research as well. You can't escape it easily. And so that's what kind of creates the trauma. And we're going to talk about this when I come back from the chat box. It creates the complex PTSD because it's repetitive, it's repeated, it's intentional, and there's often no foreseeable end. No foreseeable end. If you can at least foresee an end to the bullying, to the trauma, to the intimidation, it's almost like your mind, your heart, your body says, you know what, I can do this. I can withstand this pressure because there's an end. But within a family context, there isn't always an end. And sometimes it continues until that family member dies, or that family member grows up, or that family member, you walk away from them. But this is where complex PTSD tends to be triggered when the family bullying is repetitive, consistent, it's aggressive, it's intentional, and there is no foreseeable end. Let me also say in this category of research that some research suggests that a family bully has to often see you as less than a human being in order to perpetuate and continue the bullying. Remember earlier, I said dehumanization makes it easier for bullies to bully. Well, within a family context, dehumanizing you makes it a lot easier to perpetuate the bullying, the harassment, the fear, the intimidation, all of it. If I don't look at you as a thinking, feeling human being, then I can continue to do my dirty work. But the moment I see you being human, I can't go through with what I want to do. So they have to see you in a dehumanized way. Okay, let me go back to the chat box, guys. I need a break here. Excuse me. How do you guys feel with this, right? Let me know in the chat box. How do you feel? It's like 900 million comments on my end, so I'm going to get to them. But it's a lot to take in, right? And if you have experienced this within your family, have you ever asked yourself, how do I escape? How do I escape? Sometimes family bullies know that you're not going to escape, and that's why they continue the behavior. Traumatic bonding, codependency, those two things may keep you stuck. And, the moment a family member sees you feeling stuck, that's the moment that they're going to continue to bully you sometimes. It's very, very sad. Very sad. Amita C, hello. Good to see you and welcome. I'm reading your comment. Amita C says, Tamara, at some future date, could you please talk about how to not be bullied by other predators in the future? Predators have a sixth sense about whom to target. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. I can't necessarily tell you how to not be bullied by other predators, but what I can do is do a live chat, or maybe I'll do a video for sure. I could do a video for sure. That would be cool. That helps you identify what they are like, who they are, how they behave, and ways to kind of protect and guard yourself, right? Yes. So short answer, yes. I will definitely come back to this and write it down and put it on the list. Judge's Bailiff says, my mom single-handedly gathered her flying monkeys by turning aunts, uncles, and second brothers that I'm telling, two brothers that I'm the scapegoat daughter. She's a passive-aggressive covert narc. Well, that's kind of how it goes. Sometimes you have a narcissistic family member. They're going to dig deep right into your past and get some information and reveal it. Or they're going to manipulate and create chaos a different way. And it looks like your mom's found a way. Honda, good to see you back. Welcome. Honda says, my narcissistic parent is entitled, have flying monkeys in my career, slandering me to any job opportunity. She constantly gaslights, labels, criticizes, and justifies with manipulation. Awful. Awful. Honda, I'm sorry you have to go through that. Yeah, that's not good at all. For those of you who don't know what flying monkeys are, the term was developed by someone who had been the victim of and has worked with people who have been the victim of harassment, trauma, and other people outside the number one abuser. So let's say, for example, your dad is abusive and your mom's abusive. Dad and mom may go to your sibling and say, A, B, and C is happening. Your sister will become your parents' quote unquote flying monkey, if you will, because they're doing any and everything those two parents want them to do. They are also taking up the job of going against you. That's what that means. For those of you who are not sure, trauma survivor, and correct me if I've gotten that wrong, guys, because I can make mistakes. Trauma survivor says, especially when family gives us nothing but conditional love, which can make our sense of self feel unworthy. Absolutely. Like if you're not going to be what they want, then they'll reject you and leave you. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they will. And sometimes family members who want you to be something and you don't, you're not that kind of a family member. So let me go over this. Let me clarify this. So let's say, for example, your mom is narcissistic and she's always wanted you to go to college. I've had these cases in the past. She's always wanted you to go to college. You decided not to go when you turned 18. You graduated high school. You wanted to get employment instead. What does a mother with conditional love, do? Well, They say, well, you're going to have to get a job and help pay these bills. You're going to have to pay your own car insurance. We're not paying your way through A, B, and C. And you get this entire lecture sometimes, right? Or sometimes they're passive aggressive and they just slowly push you out of their world. You know, I have a live chat that I did last year on this, so I'm going to post it for you guys. Okay, let me see where we're at. Shay Wallace says, people who witness family bullying often think there may be justification for it because family doesn't do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the justification is, I'm your mother, I'm your father, I do what I want. You know, sometimes the other justification is nobody's not going to believe you. Nobody's going to believe you, right? So I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm justifying this by saying you did something wrong. Nobody's going to believe you. You know, you deserve this. Yeah. Dog. I need to look better. Okay. Doberman Mama. Hello. Good to see you. Glad you could be with us tonight. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you. Okay. Let's keep moving, guys. Thank you so much, Sun and Sunflowers. Yes, you're welcome. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Sammy D says, been there. Yep. Jessica J says, they trigger you into an argument by their condescending behavior. And it makes me want to tell them off and point out their behavior. It's a no-win situation. Yeah, it is a no-win. If you know that you're dealing with a person who's a bully, the last thing you want to do is fight fire with fire, right, Jessica J? You know, I have that little twinge of, on the inside of me, believe it or not, I have this little area of my heart that says, if you push the wrong button, I just might tell you what your problem is, right? For those of you, you're probably like scratching your head like, yeah, right, Tam, that's not you. But don't underestimate me, because if you rub me the wrong way, it's not going to be good. And especially if what you're doing is wrong, right? So you do, you know, an example of that could be road rage, right? I'm going the speed limit. As a matter of fact, I may be going over the speed limit. I see a police car sitting there. I check my speed to make sure I'm okay. This is an example. And the person behind me is like honking the horn and cursing me out, and the list goes on, and doesn't even realize the police is over there watching the whole thing, right? And so you may have this little piece inside of you that just wants to like blow your horn in return, get their license plate, report them to the police, right? And so that's normal for us to kind of feel that automatic, let me just jump in here and protect myself, right? But Jessica J, you know as well as I do, and everybody on the live chat tonight, that fighting fire with fire when it comes to bullies is not the way to do it, because oftentimes bullies have insecurities. They're narcissistic. They've experienced some kind of narcissistic injury, meaning their ego has been bruised. They don't feel in control, right? There's something going on with them on the inside that you'll never be able to get to. They may also be sociopathic, cold, callous, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Immature, blind, not able to see what the truth in life is all about, right? And so fighting fire with those kind of individuals, you know, it's just going to cause an even bigger thing. But I totally get you. I totally get you. You want to keep in mind as much as you can, though, what am I dealing with here? And what if I'm dealing with the most unraveled individual that I could have ever dealt with? What if I'm dealing with somebody who would kill me or do something terrible just because I've responded, right? It's sad we live in a world like that. Jermaine says, you can't fight against the false narrative that your entire family has sold to someone. That is very true. The only way, and I tell some of my clients this as well, the only way to fight against that false narrative is just to be yourself. You don't have to try to get people to understand you. You don't have to tire yourself out by trying to meet a certain expectation. Just be you. That's all you need to do. And your values, your ethics, your character, your behaviors will speak for themselves. And that is the most powerful contradiction, you know, to what somebody may be putting out there against you. I hope that made sense. Okay. Bear with me as I go through. There's a lot. Dessert Star says document, then get protective orders. You can. If it's that intense of a situation, yes. If it's a situation where you are being repeatedly harassed and bullied, you can get a protective order, excuse me. But let me also say that there are some judges that will not give you a protective order against family. Okay. Part of that is the location that you're in. Sometimes some of that is the ethics and the morals of the law of your area and the judge. Other times, judges will not give protective orders against families because there may not be enough proof or enough harassing behavior to receive that protective order. The other piece of this is sometimes a judge will also not give you a protective order if you are living next door to or in the same house as your family member. Does that make sense? I've been in situations with my cases in the past where a family member will say something like, I've been married to him for 17 years and I don't want him to come anywhere near me. We don't get along. We fight all the time. I'm going to go and get a protective order. That person goes to see if they can get a protective order. And guess what the judge is going to say? Oh, well, where do you live now? Where does the address, what needs to be on this protective order? What's your address? Right? And the wife may say, we're still living in the same house. Guess what the judge is going to do? Throw you out with the request, because some people think they can get a protective order within the same living space or dwelling as the abuser, and it's not going to happen. So I guess what I'm saying all that to say, guys, that's a long-winded reply to you. Desert star. You really want to be careful and understand what your law is in your area. And you can document, but you also want to be sure the documenting is thorough, correct, and necessary. That's the advice I give my clients all the time. Michelle Lynn says, Tamara, the worst is when people do not believe you. It hurts deeply. Yes, it does. You're just screaming, I need you to understand this. I need you to see this with me. And the other person's like, what are you talking about? I get it. I've been there in my own personal life. I've seen clients in that particular way. It's scary, isn't it? I agree. Okay, bear with me, guys. Laura Fett, hello. Good evening to you. Good to see you. Blanca Naive, hello and welcome. So glad that you could catch us live. Good to see you. And welcome to the channel, because I don't remember seeing you. Welcome. Danielle Young. I hope I'm saying that correct. It feels wrong, but we'll go with that until you correct me. Glad that you're glad to be here. Good to see you. All right, bear with me, guys, as I go through some of these. Oh my goodness. Humid Unicorn Sparkle. Brandy, are you trying to make me go nuts? You changed your screen name. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Oh, thank you, Jessica J. I don't know what's going on there. I can post a membership button for you if you want to do that. I appreciate you for that. And I'm sorry it's not working. It's most likely YouTube. I'm going to blame YouTube. Miss Janine MacArthur, hello. Always good to see you in my comments after videos. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I see you. Yeah. Sometimes people do have families that are just completely riddled with bullies. I get you. Okay. JKD Merit Master Group, hello, welcome. Good to see you. I was glad to see you live. Pamela Logan, hello. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's so humbling. Thank you. It's good to see you. Okay. Bear with me, guys, okay? Because I'm like scrolling and there's just comments unending. It's good to see it, though. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, wow, you guys must really be experiencing this. We're going to jump back in just a little bit into the content. I'm going to tell you how this impacts you. KTS worker. Hello, good to see you and welcome. The question is, what about siblings whose parents are deceased? I'm not sure what that's referring to. Do you mean bullying between siblings? And there's parents who have passed away? I will take it to mean that. Okay, I will take it to mean that. I think bullying gets worse after a parent passes away, because that structure is gone. You know, if you are already on bad terms when mom and dad were alive, you're probably going to continue to be on bad terms, or it's going to get worse after they pass away. Now, in some families, it gets better. You know, I've seen that in my profession with different clients. It just depends on the dynamics. So hopefully I answered that for you. Jen, Gable, Justian. I know I messed that up. I apologize. Hello, good to see you, and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you before. And you're saying the level of deceit. There's often lots of deceit in these kind of families as well. So I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in tomorrow's live chat. Shauna, Noah, Medium, hello, welcome. Good to see you. And I don't remember you, so welcome to the channel. Good to see you. All right, a handful more, guys, and we're going to get back into the content. Anne of Hearts, always good to see you in the chat box. Hello and welcome. Yeah. Jen Gable goes on to say, the level of deceit, triangulation, abusers has been and still is out of control. Thank you for this open forum. Yes, you're welcome. And it can get out of control for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it can get out of control because, number one, those dysfunctional family characteristics. Number two, the quality of relationships, again, goes down where there's bullying in the family context. The other most important piece here is the establishment of dominance. So that kind of keeps the chaos going and it spins it out of control. The minute a family member feels like they can lord over you, that there's nothing you small person can do, then that's where it tends to get out of control. And it feels bad, right? Because you just want to say, you're no better than I am, and you're not up here and I'm not down here, you know? Okay, you may make more money, or okay, you may be the favorite in the family, but that doesn't mean that you treat me less than, you know? So yeah, I agree. That's how it gets out of control. Triangulation happens, deceit, pathological lying, the abuse gets out of control, and again, that level of dominance, you know? Michelle Lynn says, after I went through coercive control, a sergeant helped me in front of the judge get a 3-year restraining order. Wow, that's a long restraining order. And those are rare as well. Interesting. Wow. That's really interesting. Wow. Dawn Juan says, thank you for caring. You're welcome. And thank you for saying that. All right, one more comment, guys, I promise. Saved by grace, slowed and reverb. Ooh, I like that. Welcome and welcome to the channel. How much are your virtual counseling sessions? Feel free to email me. My email is in the description box. You can email me and I'll go ahead and let you know. I'm literally booked up though. I can't accept new clients until end of April, beginning of May, just because I'm so booked up. But if you email me, then I can give you a timeline and I can maybe do a consultation with you and I can kind of help you a little bit. So feel free to send me an email. Okay, guys. Let's get back into this. I'm going to go back to the chat box in a little bit, and then we can wrap up. How does this impact you? The number one way that this impacts you, and psychology research supports this notion, is chronic traumatization. Chronic traumatization. You know that's the recipe for complex PTSD. Because if you think about complex PTSD, we are really talking about relationship PTSD. And you have all of the characteristics of PTSD: flashbacks, avoidance of the trigger, difficulty sleeping or relaxing, being in a state of hyperarousal all the time, or what we also call central nervous system dominance. So your body's constantly in that fight or flight mode. You may also notice within yourself, but this is also PTSD, nightmares and night terrors, night sweats, right? Feeling really uneasy and nervous, restless, not being able to slow your thoughts down, so racing thoughts. You may also have, from time to time, some auditory hallucinations, some visual hallucinations. Very, very rare, but some people do have those. You may also find yourself being very anxious and depressed, right? And feeling like you're walking in a fog, like you're out of it, or like you're walking in a dream or a movie. We call that depersonalization. and derealization. So you may have all of those PTSD symptoms, but you may also have the complex piece of that, which is the entwinement. Is that a term? I think it's a term. If it's not, we're going to make you one tonight. It's the entwinement of the relationships, right? It's that connection to traumatic relationships that makes PTSD complex. If it's repeated, excessive abuse, neglect, maltreatment by another person or a group of persons, like in a family, then we are talking chronic traumatization. We're also talking complex PTSD. The other thing is with complex PTSD, the number one characteristic that I think is the most important, I don't see this in the research, but I do feel like this is the most important piece of the puzzle for complex PTSD, is you don't see a foreseeable end. There's no foreseeable end. You're just walking through this relationship and that abusive experience, and you don't see anything down the road. You don't see the end of the tunnel. You don't see that open hole that you can run through. It's all darkness, right? And being in a family where you're being harassed, bullied, shamed, hurt, neglected, disregarded, we can go down the whole list of adjectives. When those things are happening, you may not see the light at the end of the tunnel. It may literally be completely black. Why? Because now you're entering the stage, possibly, of complex PTSD, and there is absolutely no foreseeable exit, and that's what makes it difficult. There may also be perpetual hardship in your life. Perpetual hardship. The most important relationship is the family. And if that goes wrong at an early age, there may be attachment issues. There may be childhood trauma. There may be years of additional chaos and trauma in your life that sets you up for failure. And so you may find yourself dealing with perpetual hardship. It is not something that's abnormal. That's why we have the ACEs questionnaire to complete if you are an adult that's coming in for treatment, because years and years of terrible hardships and situations can lead to many, many years of trauma. And so perpetual hardship is likely. The other piece of the puzzle is, you're going to like this, I think, cyber victimization. Cyber victimization. Really what that is I'm going to get online and I'm going to post things that are not true about you. I'm going to get online and comment on your videos that are inappropriate, that they are no good, that nobody really likes them. I'm going to comment on your wedding invitation, birthday invitation, if I can say it, that I've seen online. I'm going to text our whole group and make sure that I say something that's going to embarrass you, right? I'm going to, and this is really younger people. Is it millennials, I think, or younger people? They tend to change their descriptions on Instagram, on Snapchat, TikTok. They change their, what do you call it, guys? I'm forgetting what it's called. I can't think of what it's called, but anyway. Oh, they change their status to single, divorced. They do really immature, petty things like that. And it's often cyber victimization. I'm going to use the internet space to kind of take a stab at you, make you feel a certain way, make you think a certain way. So that's something that can also happen in these bullying families. You may also experience a fear of healthy conflict. A fear of healthy conflict. Conflict is healthy to a certain degree. We're not going to always agree. One thing my older brother used to say to me is, he says, me and my wife don't fight. We don't fight at all. And I remember looking and thinking, okay, either you guys fight and you don't acknowledge it, or you don't fight because nobody stands their ground. I had a very narrow view of that. Maybe there are some couples that don't fight, but I also think that there should be a level of healthy conflict, right? Because you need to grow, they need to grow. And sometimes healthy conflict says, let me stretch your mind. Let me stretch how you're feeling about this, and it can open you up to maturity. So healthy conflict, you may be very, very afraid of that. And you may be the kind of person within a relationship to just shut down and not say a word, right? There's a lock and a key on your lips. You will not speak. So that's very common. What's also common is significant emotional distress. Significant emotional distress. I can't function. I can't think. My fight or flight system is running unstopped, right? Or it's unstoppable. It's not pausing for me. I'm constantly in this state of hyperarousal. I never feel relaxed or present, right? You may also be in a constant state of denial. And you may also be in a constant state of grief and loss. Having family members who are bullies, it takes a chunk out of your world of emotional support that you should have. We should have emotional support from our families, right? But if we're being bullied and harassed by them, that is not a good thing. And it really is like there's a chunk taken out of your life of emotional support that you should have. And that can be very grievous. So you may be experiencing a constant state of denial, a constant state of grief, and a constant state of loss. Lastly, in this category, there is absolutely no internal sense of safety. No internal sense of safety. When you are in a situation where there's family bullying, there's family harassment, you're already in a state on the inside of constant disequilibrium. Constant disequilibrium. Your world is just constantly uneven. It's not balanced. It's not equal. It's not firm. You're constantly in a state of disequilibrium. So because of that, there's no internal sense of safety. And that can also lead to complex PTSD. Right, guys? This is a tough topic, right? I'm not going to continue on. I'm going to pause here. Join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about a concept known as mind blindness. Blindness, if I can speak. Mind blindness. And here's what that means. It means that you have a mind, you have a heart, you have a soul, but you don't see me, right? And I know for a lot of you, you probably have been screaming to your family, screaming to that person in the relationship that you're in, I need you to hear me. I need you to see me. Right? I need you to understand me. And guess what? They don't. So tomorrow's live chat, come join me. We're going to talk about mind blindness. Why don't you see me? I'm screaming for help. I need you. And you're not paying attention. Right? And so oftentimes in clinical settings, we say it's denial, but sometimes it's way more than denial. So join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. Okay, guys, I'm going to go to the chat box here for a second, and then we're going to wrap up. Lorfit says, I believe favoritism creates a toxic. Okay, let me go over this, Lorfit. I believe favoritism creates a toxic and a bullying environment among siblings. Yes, it does. Definitely creates separation. Yes, it does. Your mom's favorite. I've held something against you for many years. Yeah, I very much agree. I don't know if that's to me or what, so I'm going to skip that one. SNG1, I'm going to comment on your other ones. I don't know if you're talking to me. Gary Bennett says, when my family member remarries, they want to impress their new family and forget their own. When you mention this, you are seen as causing trouble because they don't want any more grief. I'm not sure that's connecting for me, Gary. I may have come in on like the tail end of what you're saying. I don't know. Let me piggyback off that. Okay. Sometimes if you do remarry, and I've had clients like this, if you do remarry, yes, they are in a constant state, some people, of trying to impress their in-laws. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want to get in the middle of that whole battle. Sometimes it's not even worth you pointing out. Just let it go. Okay. Fairy Girl says, family of origin trauma can be a contributing factor to unhealthy adult relationships as well. Yes, it can. It's often a precursor. It comes before the negative relationship. The family trauma, the complex PTSD, the years of family bullying, harassment, that does boomerang, and it comes right back around in an adult relationship. Yes, I see it all the time. Excuse me, guys. Okay, I'm just looking at what you guys are saying. I'm trying to point out the most important ones. You guys are making some important points in the chat box. I see that. Sammy D says, it took me a long time to rid myself of that identity. Yep. Sometimes what happens in a family where there's bullying, again, you take the label that they give you. So if you're the black sheep, if you're the one who doesn't listen, if you're the oppositional defiant, if you're the one who wasn't very attentive, if you're the one who dropped out of college, if you're the one that married the wrong person, right? They're labeling you. And when you're labeled, what does that say? That somebody has a view of you that must be either true or they must see you that way. Either way, it impacts you negatively. And you begin sometimes to live out that identity. And we call that a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You think I'm a failure. You treat me like a failure. So therefore I will become a failure. That's kind of the idea there. Okay. Bear with me, guys, as I continue down this road of trying to find comments. Man, you guys have some good comments tonight. Leslie Sturm, hello and welcome. Fantastic question. Good to see you. Leslie Stern says, are bullies made or born? They can be both. They can be both. There are some individuals who are born with an irritable temperament, a temperament that's not very flexible. They have a temperament that's not agreeable. They're constantly in opposition with other people. They're hard to please. They're stubborn, right? So that's the genetic piece. Now, some of those characteristics that I just mentioned can then bloom into ADHD, can bloom into oppositional defiant disorder, can bloom into conduct disorder, antisocial behavior. And that's where it becomes a genetic thing. Can you be made a bully? 100%. By your friends, by your peers in school, by your parents, right? By taking on different identities over the years of growing up, right? Because remember, if you were with me, Leslie Sturm, at the beginning, I said sometimes bullying behavior is learned. All I have to do is sit and watch my dad act like he has absolutely no sense on this highway trying to cause an accident with these people who are driving because he wants them to go faster. So he's hanging out the window, cursing, screaming, gypping people, getting ready to cause a wreck because you want to go over the speed limit. All a child has to do is sit in the back seat and observe that, sit in the back seat and observe multiple incidents, right? Go home and observe how dad thinks, how dad behaves, what dad thinks of other people. And over time, right? It's kind of like, oh, what's that stuff called? It's kind of like putty, you know, how you can mold putty and Play-Doh, right? And over time, all of those experiences of watching dad with that child's eyes, right? It can cause the child to develop the same behaviors. In addition to their genetic components of having a difficult temperament, right? Being bossy, controlling, that kind of thing. That was a fantastic question, by the way, Leslie Stern. KTS Worker says, how do you deal with bullying after the parents died? Well, you would have to give me some insights on what that means. I think you asked me somewhat of a similar question earlier, and I can't really say unless I have a little bit more direction. I'm sorry. Trauma Survivor says bullying equals betrayal. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're betraying me. Absolutely. JKD Merit Master Group says, my problem was I didn't realize that when you go 150% of everybody, people, and did I misread that? Okay, let me go over this. My problem was I didn't realize that when you go 150% for everybody, people end up liking you. A people pleaser winds up with needs not met and resentful. Frustration and anxiety kick in. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. When you're dealing with family bullies or people who are controlling, you do want to keep that in mind, right? That you're most likely not going to get your needs met. You're going to have to be the one who is the sacrifice, right? You're going to have to be the sacrificer. We're going to make that a word tonight too. You're going to sacrifice your well-being until you say no, right? Okay. Bear with me, guys. I'm just scrolling through. It's so many good comments tonight. You guys are on the ball. Me anime con English. I know that part was Spanish, or is it? I don't know. It looks like it's Spanish. Hello from Argentina. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. And welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Roman T. Hello. Good to see you back. Haven't seen you in a while. Yes, you're welcome, Jessica J. Jessica J says, yes, thank you, Tamara. It was my supervisor and a supervisor over him. They made it difficult for me to function. Man, that's hard. So hard. Layla Papa, hello and welcome back. Good to see you. Says, interesting, a subsystem. Yeah, that's sounding about right. Coalition, triangulation, whatever it's called. If it's against you, it's an unfair fight. Yes, it is. A coalition, a subsystem, all of those groups, right, that are against you, it is a very difficult thing to live through because a lot of people just feel like, oh, my brother and sister are against me. Oh, well, guess I made them angry. I'm going to go over here and go on with the rest of my life. That may or may not be true. Your siblings can actually be in a coalition against you, meaning that they talk about you all the time. They agree about what you are and what you are not. They have this kind of pact, if you will, and they're in a relationship that involves a place of agreement against you, right? And it's a very ugly, sad thing. M, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says the baby boomer generation is the worst with bullying. Really? I mean, I've seen some elderly people, but most of them are sweet. Maybe it's the ones you're seeing, M. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Okay, guys, a couple more comments. I'm going to say hello to you, BE. Grand evening to you as well. I like that. Yeah, 11. Okay, I'm going to read this. 11 of 17 communities and been bullied my whole environment growing up. I got married. They taught him community. Did you finish that sentence, BE? Wait, you may have. Hold on, bear with me. They kept me from my kids, and now my kids taught to be users against me. I left them all, and they're trying to follow. It's crazy. Wow. I mean, I don't know the whole story. But that sounds like a very distressing place to be in, right? Yeah. And it's distressing when you realize that, okay, this is a group that's against me. Keep that in mind. This is a group. This is not one person against me. This is not my child going against me. This is what we would call a unit going against me. And that is the most painful because there's nobody for you to turn to because everybody's on the same page against you. You know what I mean? Layla, I hope I'm saying that right. Papa, sessions with me are possible depending on what state you're in and also depending on my schedule. I'm booked up until late April, early May, but if you email me, I can definitely put you on my waiting list. That's totally fine. The Good Glow, I think you might be, excuse me, I think you might be my last one. I see so many more comments. My God. Okay, let me get through some of these and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. The Good Glow, glad to see you. Welcome, welcome. The Good Glow says, I want to tell my boss to take his knee off my neck. Yeah. He devalues and bullies if you refuse to kiss the right or bow down. Kiss the ring or bow down. Yeah. Yeah. He sounds rather narcissistic. Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. I have so many thoughts going through my entire brain. Maybe tomorrow when we talk about mind blindness, I can bring up some things. Maybe repost this comment. Liberty Can, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Liberty Can says, moms sometimes cheat for reasons we can't imagine. Well, I don't know what that means, Liberty Can. Did I come on a wrong piece of this? I don't know. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm out of context. I don't understand what that's getting at. Forgive me. It's most likely me, not you. Hidden Beauty, hello and welcome. Good to see you. I don't remember seeing you before, so welcome to the channel. Hidden Beauty says, I'm looking for a remote job to help me save up and move out. I want to move to another state to get away from my maternal extended family. I also don't like living with my mother. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. Sometimes that's what you have to do. You kind of have to put your head down, right? And just get through it so that you can get on the other side where it's healthier, and where you don't have to fight so much and feel like you're in battles with your own flesh and blood, right? Guys, let's pause here, okay? I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's live chat. I think that's going to be another interesting one for you. Anything I didn't get to tonight, forgive me. Know that I'm going to go back and see all your comments because I always watch my live chats over again just to get a feel for the chat room and to answer you guys and communicate with you and come up with new topics as well. So anything I didn't get to, forgive me. Thank you so much for the super chats tonight, for making the chat box a friendly and healthy place for everybody to be in. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Friday. Good night, guys.